Good evening, and it's my very big pleasure to welcome you all today to the launch of Mai Serhan's Cairo, the Undelivered Letters. There are three reasons why I'm especially thrilled to be here today. The first is that I'm super proud that Diwan Publishing is the publisher of this collection of extraordinary poetry. The second reason is that as a student of literature, I've always had a slight problem that I hate poetry. And, um, and this collection has made me fall in love. It was my key to actually embracing an art form that I always felt incredibly inaccessible to me. The third reason is that quite a few years ago, I read something that Mai Serhan wrote. And we were friends on Facebook, but we didn't know one another. So I sent her a random message on Facebook Messenger, and I told her, I read something that you wrote, and I love it. Will you be my friend, please? And she said, sure. So here we are today, and it's a real pleasure on so many levels. Welcome, Mai.
Thank you. I actually have to add that when she said that, I told her, I'm a fan of yours, and she said, shut up, I'm your fan. Just be quiet and take it. Yeah.
So just to introduce Mai, who I don't think needs introduction, but Mai Serhan is a writer, editor, and translator. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Comparative Literature and a Master's in Arabic Studies from the American University in Cairo and a Master's in Creative Writing from the University of Oxford. Her writing has appeared in multiple reviews and magazines, the London Magazine, Oxford Magazine, Flash Fiction Magazine, the Michigan Quarterly Review, and many, many more. I'm also very excited that her memoir, entitled I Can Imagine It For Us, a Palestinian Daughter's Memoir, is coming out with AUC later on this year. So, let's get to it. The most obvious thing about this collection of poetry is that it has the vehicle of, these are letters, the unanswered letters to the editor of Barid al-Gum'a fil Ahram. And you have used this epistolary genre, which is sort of quite confessional, to frame this. Why?
Okay, so what happened? And it was a process. The concept of this poetry collection came in stages. First, I had a friend who told me about Barid al-Gum'a and that it's a treasure trove of Cairo stories. And then years later, I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. And it's a novel where he addresses his mother, who's illiterate, who's never going to read this letter or this novel. So it got me thinking about why write a letter to someone who would never read it? What's the point? Who is he addressing if the mother's never going to read this letter? Which got me thinking of us as the meta-reader. We are the ones who actually are being addressed and are being asked to respond to this novel. That was the beginning. And then when I got interested in Barid al-Gum'a, I went and bought the volumes of Barid al-Gum'a, and I started reading them, and I did not like the editor-in-chief's advice. I thought it was very moralizing, very didactic, concerned with how to be a good Muslim and a good wife and a good man and a good brother and all that. And it was just, I didn't like it. So I thought, let's get rid of the editor completely. And that gave me access to, okay, like now I have creative license to do whatever I want. So why not invent the letters? Not follow Barid al-Gum'a. So from there, I started thinking of undelivered letters and why would they be undelivered? They would be undelivered because they are too dangerous to be published. they're too dark, they're too seedy, they're too gritty. They're what we don't want to see about Cairo. So from there, the concept came of the undelivered letters are the letters that don't make the cut, that don't make it to publication. Yeah.
Well, what was fascinating to me is that you managed to strike a very delicate balance between, you know, this darkness, this heaviness, the things that we don't want to know and hear and see, and yet there is this almost childlike playfulness with the language, with the imagery, that is really, I mean, I felt like I was constantly being, I was taken up high, and then I dropped again. How did you manage? I mean, was that very intentional and very scripted, or did it just happen?
It's never 100% a conscious choice, but I guess with practice, the more you write, the more you understand that you can't trap a reader for too long in a claustrophobic atmosphere. It can't stay dark. It can't stay angry. You know, you have to catch and release. You have to make them inspire awe and terror at the same time, and all the range of emotions for you as a reader to emerge feeling like you're satiated. You had like a really good meal. You know, you have to feel all these emotions. Part of it is, the idea of giving you a space to breathe and not trapping you in this dark atmosphere for too long. But also, because Cairo is not all dark, and Cairo is also Cairians are very funny. They're very funny people. And despite all the problems, they're hilarious, you know? And I think I have a reservoir from all the movies that I watch and everyone I see on the street. There's a lot of sense of humor, and because I've lived here most of my life, I feel like it's also part of me, so maybe without knowing, this comes out because this is Cairo. It's this and that, you know.
Cairo, in this collection of poems, isn't a backdrop. It's an actual living, breathing character that triggers certain chains of actions and consequences. How do you portray that? How do you feel? Because I think you paint a very nuanced, multiple nuanced pictures of Cairo. How do you bring that through in your poetry? I mean, was this something, again, that you were conscious of, or it just infused itself?
Okay, so from the very beginning, when I was still conceptualizing this collection, I was very clear about certain things. I wanted it to be dark and sleazy and dirty and magical and mythical at the same time. I wanted it to be grotesque and gorgeous at the same time, because that's how I see Cairo. You know, there are pockets of Cairo that are beautiful, and then there's a side that's very ugly. And so that was the guide. But also Cairo as the mother, the motherland, and Cairo as the monster at the same time. So I was playing with these meanings and moods.
Do you feel that Cairo is a different entity for you as a poet versus as Mai, the person, the woman, the mother? I mean, do you see Cairo through different eyes by virtue of either existing in it or writing it in poetry?
I think that this collection is surreal also. It's very surreal. So no, I don't walk around Cairo feeling like I'm in a bad dream. No, it's not like that. It's a concept. This is a concept, and this is not wholly my experience of Cairo. I was very conscious that I am working on a literary work, and it had to have its own, characteristics. Is it faithful to Cairo? It's an angle. I can write another book that's entirely different about Cairo,
So you have a lot of moments where silence is far more powerful than the spoken, the said, so what role does the unsaid say? I mean, in something like Ghost, for instance. Ghost is an incredible poem. What role did silence play there for you?
Yeah, silence is, I think, very integral to the idea of this book, because it's these people are the people that are unseen and unheard, who do not make the cut. So the idea is these people are the silenced people. And they make a lot of noise in these letters. And they kind of give up and smash mirrors and take off their clothes and, like, it's despair, and it's this moment of eruption because of despair. So yeah, there's the silence is very much part of the concept, but also they kind of all scream. It's like, it feels like they are screams that are trapped in envelopes. That's the idea. Yeah.
So can you read us Ghost?
Ghost.
This is, I thought, one of the most haunting pieces. I mean, there are many haunting pieces, but this one.
So Ghost is the first one. I start with the editor-in-chief addressing Cairo and telling Cairo, like, why don't you answer my emails? Why don't my letters? Why I'm kind of given up on you answering. And then the first poem is one of the undelivered letters. Okay. Dear editor, I went to an enchantress. Didn't say much to her, except that I felt numb. My moods didn't swing. The sun, the moon, the same. How I could not smell the rose, so I chewed it whole and sobbed. She hummed in cryptic, scribbled something down. Gold bangles on her wrist, spirits all around. This drug, she said, it's called Ghost. She read its properties. Ghost will fade the parts of you you cannot face, make nothing echo, make this town not your beast. She said, these lines on your face, do you remember? Your skin, heavy as a coat in rain. This heart, oh, it pines, so long in vellum, it needs the loosest gauze. Undress it, swallow this and slip. Don't panic when they don't see you. You're here, only you're out of place. Ghost.
There are so many lines that haunt me in this collection. But I can't leave the idea of silence, because as much as these people are silenced, the silence is also from the editor who's not answering. And so silence here becomes its own kind of violence, and it keeps taking on a larger a larger impact. How do you feel what do you feel that does to the reader at this point? Yani, where is the reader in your collection? I mean, you have this editor who is this godlike figure. And in this godlike figure, we've got this idea of, I mean, he's watching, but he's not doing anything. And we have this hope of justice, maybe. First of all, did that play out for you in terms of, is there anything specific that reminds you of that in Cairo? And then what does that do in terms of the reader? What's the reader's job in all of this?
The editor, the way I see the editor from the very beginning is that he is standing in his office at a very high rise, looking out of the window at Cairo. It's like Zeus on the mountain, but it's just a very helpless Zeus. And for me, he's the system at large, whether it's here in Egypt or in the world. It's a system that is crippled, it's corrupt, and it can't do anything to save us. And we're all kind of falling through the cracks. No one has agency, as we all know, since Gaza. It's become very clear that no one has agency. He's this godlike figure. He can be local, he can be global, but he's a handicap. Yeah. What's the second half of the question?
What does it? What's the role of the reader then? I mean, if we have the silenced, we have the silencer. What happens to the reader?
So the reader is you, the meta reader, because these letters in their fictional form are not delivered, but as a book they are delivered. So as the meta reader, I am soliciting a response from you, and it remains to be seen what your response is, you know. I've had people read it and tell me things like, I will never see Cairo the same again, and you know, I'd always overlook these people on the street, and now like I look at them and I remember your words, and your words will haunt me when I come to Cairo next time, friends from abroad. فيعني I'm still gathering information on what the response is, you know.
But as one reader, I have to say, I felt incredibly handicapped. I felt helpless. And I don't know, I can't formulate, there was space to breathe and there was space to laugh, but I didn't know what else to do. There was no, I mean, reading, I guess, in itself is an act of resistance and is an act of agency, but beyond that, I wasn't able to.
I mean, the idea also is like, is writing, is poetry even something that can change the world or not? Like, you know, there's so much being said now about like, there's so much poetry about Gaza now, and you know, like, but is it changing anything? It's on a very micro level. It's maybe shifting people emotionally a little bit, but in the physical world, can you change something about where we are? No, you can't. You can't. But you can just keep like moving
the dial
a little bit.
But I mean, I think that, you know, individuals, human beings, overall are well-meaning, and in relation to Gaza, I think individuals know what is right and what is wrong, but I think governments are the ones that are, you know, really despicable. And
the editor-in-chief is that authority figure here.
He is that guy.
He is that guy.
So basically, the letters have been delivered to us. So after this, is there one letter that particularly for you encapsulates this whole collection?
There are a few. I think Ghost is one.
Okay.
Ghost is someone who feels like he has no agency anymore and he'd rather disappear. Khalas, it's done. Just make me disappear. I'm numb. I might as well just not be seen because that's fine. There's nothing else to do. The other one is Beast of Burden.
So can you read that one to us, please?
Beast of Burden.
And then can you tell us why this one encapsulates?
Okay. Right. I think it's towards the end. Beast of Burden. Beast of Burden is after Sit Marie Rose, Etel Adnan's. It's after that book. And it goes like this. Dear editor, this ghetto imagination is so invalid. Those men out there, they'd rather kill. They'd rather kiss, all zippers open. So much bang and only 5 pockets. Some people have armored vehicles and no license plates. We know them by name. We count them on our 5 fingers. The rest are maybe 500 million. Are we all just the same city? The numb of gray. So many cement mixers and fierce contractors. Skyscrapers so those without hope can wait in the hallways. Even movie stars can't get a man to love them. Nothing is average about the color gray except its color. It smothers trees. So much paper and blank checks. Those men out there, they covet and hate all at once. They fight with no pain left. Only a crease around the lip. Only the city wins. Blank checks and so many donkey carts. This girl, this sunburnt hair, all eyes and no face, this beast of burden. She begs to me with a thread-weave bracelet. I hand her my cold capitalist drink. I hand her all my false safety and walk off. I wash my hands clean of today's news. 6 and 6 children starved and standing strong. Beyond the border, beyond sense. Are we all just the same city? I buy a cauliflower, split it with a knife, and watch the maggots crawl. I run out of garbage rolls. Violence smothers. Fear falls like an invalid. My best wishes, a beast of burden. Okay. Because I think it looks at, it really digs deeper into violence and corruption and inequality, and it kind of makes it not just Cairo's problem, it's a world problem, you know, but it centers around this girl, you know, the writer can only see her eyes but can't see her face, she's faceless. And it kind of tells you, like, it's just rotten from opening the cauliflower to walking the streets to the whole system is corrupted. You know, that's why I keep saying, are we all just the same city? And I wrote this in Lebanon, by the way. I wrote it, again, I'm sorry to keep bringing up Gaza, but I wrote it after October 7th because I felt like, why am I writing about Cairo when Gaza is happening? I need to be writing about Gaza. And I kind of tried to bring it in any way possible, you know. And it just feels like, yeah, this is, whatever problems I have in this book are very Cairo-specific, but also it implicates the larger systems, you know.
Do you feel like if you had written this book, most of the poems were written in Cairo? I mean, because it started as 10 poems, and then it sort of grew over time to 50.
Mm-hmm.
When you started, I mean, does place have an impact on you, where you wrote?
Yes,
does it
100%.
How?
Because Beast of Burden was taken after Etel Adnan. I was reading Etel Adnan in Beirut, and that's how I wrote it, you know.
And the others, I mean, Cairo, London, how does place impact?
There's one called Red Dress that I wrote in a workshop, part of my degree. I took a workshop that was a collaborative workshop where we had to work with other poems, where we had to write a poem that's part of another poem. And that's how Red Dress came out. So I wrote it in 20 minutes, and it was the energy of my cohort in Oxford, all these writers with me. Yeah, it's very infectious when you're surrounded by really gifted people, you know, it kind of takes the energy somewhere else, you know. And it is for me personally, Red Dress is my favorite poem.
Then I think we have to hear Red Dress. صح ولا إيه? Yes.
Okay, I have to apologize because Red Dress is quite intense. Red Dress. Okay. This one's also taken after What Women Want by Kim Adonizio. Okay. Dear editor, it's done. And so I want a red dress to walk around on the arm of a woman. I want it cheap so that its peeling hurts. Tight, so I wear it, and in a fit, tear it, or someone tears it off my chest. I want it careless and backless, and like my back, backless, so they wonder, what the hell is going on underneath? I want to knock around crossroads until my heels break. Buy berries, buy everything I never needed. Pass past the cowhide market. They're filthy as fuck, slinging cows onto a dolly, dreaming of toying with me on a sticky truck, while on their shoulders hoisting skin and blood. But no, I walk the walk of a cool astronaut, like I want to walk, but it's never enough. And I want that red dress bad. I want it to tell me no one is okay with it, their worst fears about me, a sickness in their stomach pits, to show them how little I care about them or anything else except what I'm ruining next. Do or die I want, and when I find it, I'll pull that body off its hanger, random against other bodies, Sail this planet full of ghosts and wear it like bones, like cries, like smoke wrapping a leaving light. Yours, a fucking mess.
Prof?
I think it's the fastest poem I ever wrote, yeah. And I kept it as is, you know.
So, as you said, this happened in a workshop and you were surrounded with other people.
Yeah.
Poetry, writing in general, is a very solitary experience. Mm-hmm. Do you think you, as a writer, as a poet, are you in dialogue with other poets, writers, and if so, who?
Yeah, so thankfully, because I studied creative writing and I was in a cohort with 52 other amazing writers, and I remember the very first time we all met, our professors told us, you're very lucky because you are going to have each other for the rest of your lives. And we didn't even know each other. So it's like, hi. But it happened. Like, we finished and we are in constant collaboration. We are constantly talking on a daily basis. Really, nothing in this book has not been shared with two of my closest writer friends. They both went to Oxford with me. One is Syrian Lebanese and the other is Indian American. And we have a group, and there's nothing that we publish without editing together. So, and I trust them fully. So there are these two, but there are also others. Like, but it's different. Like, do you want to collaborate on this? Where can I find a database for agents? How can I get my book reviewed? Who wants to collaborate with me on this? I'm writing a novel. Who's up to starting, you know, a group to work on novels together? Who's working on poetry? Let's make a group together. It's very fluid and depends on what anyone's working on and who's working on the same thing. But it's been amazing having them with me.
In terms of, yani, as a student of literature, so in terms of the writers or the poets that you studied, who left a mark on you? And today, if we're going to nominate to this audience or suggest to them books that really, or poets, or whatever you like, that really left something, what would they be?
The very first book of poetry that I read during my studies that really blew my mind and thought, like, I didn't know that people can write like this is a possibility, was a book called Surge by J. Bernard. He's a British writer. And because his poetry he worked with the archives. I never thought that poetry can be mixed with nonfiction or with crime. And what he did is he took this story of a black family in the UK that was murdered by a white guy during the son's birthday. And it started this huge wave of protests in the UK, and no one was ever arrested for the burning of this family. So he went to the archives, and everything is from these archives. But it's still one of the most powerful things I've read. Yeah, visually so vivid, so intense, so raw. So that's one. I love Hala Alian. I don't know if anyone knows her here. She's Palestinian American. I adore her work. Lina Khalaf Tufaha, also Palestinian. Noor Hindi. Victoria Chang, she's amazing. Anne Carson. Yeah, these are some really great names. Yeah. I'm
happy to say I've heard of none of them. No, but this is exciting because I feel like you're opening a different world to me that I should actually get into. So I'm sorry for the cliche question that's coming up, but I feel like every Arab writer who writes in English needs to get asked this question because we're looking for innovative or original answers. جاهزة Mai? So what?
When do you write in English?
No, لا بالعكس, no. Write in English. But as a woman, as someone who is writing, let's say, an Arabic experience in English, what defies translation? What doesn't make it across in that experience? Because you are translating an experience,
Yeah,
and you're translating across different mediums, because you this is a life that you're seeing unfolding in front of you, and you're setting it to poetry. You might be witnessing it in Arabic, but you are translating it in you. And I don't mean translation in the rudimentary sense, but I mean you're relaying it in English. So, what are the obstacles?
Okay, but before I get into the obstacles, I have to tell you that I keep being asked this question in its most cliche form, and sometimes people tell me مصرية وبتكتبي بالإنجليزي يا عيب الشون كده يعني. It really annoys me. And one time, you didn't ask that.
I didn't ask that.
No, you didn't. But and then one time, I was being interviewed, and the guy asked me, "Why do you write in English if you're Arab?" And I said, "Do you write in English?" He said, "Yes." "Do you write in Arabic?" He said, "No." I'm like, "Why are you asking?" خلاص, we're all the same. هي المشكلة إن we're all products of a colonized society.
Yes.
We have no... طبعا we are the privileged who go to private schools and learn in English and all that. بس في الآخر, you need to be curious about why I write in English rather than judge it. You know, of course I'm a product of, you know, neo-colonialism, and this is why I write in English. بس الفكرة كمان إن I've always written in English all my life, even as someone who exists here. This is the language that I express myself in. So it's not this third space. I'm very comfortable in it. I'm very comfortable in seeing something in the material world in Arabic, that's Arab, an Arab experience, and immediately internalizing it in English. So it's not a process of translation. I never feel stuck, even if I'm describing a very Egyptian situation. I don't know how to do it in any other way. You know, I can't.
Yeah, I get that. I understand. Tab, is there a second collection of undelivered letters?
This is the second.
Oh.
This is the second, because this book was first a chapbook. And a chapbook means a poetry collection that's under 20 pages. A chapbook is like a mini poetry collection. Once you get over 40 pages, you're getting into a full-length collection. So what happened is the letters were initially my end of year one creative project in university. And my tutor is the one who advised me to submit it to awards and get it published. But it was just a university project. And then it had its own life. So when Diwan came and said, we want to publish the letters, it was an opportunity to expand, because why give you a very thin 20-page thing? Now I have the opportunity to talk about Cairo and Cairo stories for as long as I need to, you know? So that's how it happened. It became a collection. And obviously it can have a second part and a third part, because Cairo never runs out of stories. But I'm done. I'm ready to do other things now.
And I don't want to keep going on, because I feel like there are other voices we need to listen to, but I just have one question for me. As somebody who's always been intimidated by poetry, what are the vehicles or ways in which you think we can make poetry more accessible to different generations? Because, I mean, we have a tradition of colloquial poetry and classical poetry, taban, but I feel like it's not one of the genres that is having a renaissance. What can we do? I mean, do we set it to music? Do we perform it? Does it need to have a different rhythm? Does it need to be, or marafsh? I'm asking you as a poet.
It's true. Like a lot of my friends who only write poetry have trouble publishing their work. It's not easy, because the publisher the first thing they're going to say is, it's not going to sell. Okay, poetry doesn't sell. Poetry is for a small niche audience. But what shifted my thinking about poetry is a poetry collection. And it's called Night Sky with Exit Wounds by Ocean Vuong. night sky with exit wounds. I was blown away when I read this, and I remember reading it in front of a friend who worked in insurance, who has nothing to do with literature, never picked up a book in his life. So he's like, "What are you reading?" He said, "I'm reading poetry." He's like, "Can I see?" He took it and he left. And he came back, he's like, "This is amazing." فبالنسبة لي, like, wow, like I managed to convert an insurance guy to poetry. How? I think how? By being very vulnerable, very honest, not being lazy with your images, working very hard until what you write wows you. Until you get to a point like, wow, how did this come out, you know? And then you have to always keep the reader in mind. Like, when you work in a space that's between me being immersed in my world as I write, but also having the reader in mind and understanding how to pull them in and woo them in. Someone once said that writing is like taking someone on a blind date. You know, you don't know who's on the other end, but you want to charm them very much. How do you do that? I think it's through vivid images, using your five senses, talking with honesty, talking from your place in the world, having a strong subject matter, and never being lazy with a line. The line has to work really hard to get somewhere wow, you know. That's all I can say.
لا بسيط.
بسيط.
I'd like to open the floor to anyone who would like to discuss anything with Mai. I mean, look, if you haven't read this, please do, because, you know, I even if you don't like poetry, which would be my story, this is incredible. And I just felt that it opened up a whole world to me, and it really did take me on a blind date, because I was like, okay, Mai wrote this, fine, let's listen. And then it was the unexpected phrases, and it was the images that went from gorgeous to grotesque in a heartbeat. And it was just really, I'm not trying to sell books, as well, kind of I am, but I'm also trying, but I also would like to share something beautiful, because I think there are so many ugly things in the world that we share. I'm trying to impart some beauty. Please, anyone, any questions?
I'm sure we're going to enjoy reading this a lot. We enjoyed, I did, but I'm sure other people did too. I saw it in their eyes. That the poems that you read, we really enjoyed them. What's next after that? What other form of writing, what other story, what the trip are you going to take us on?
As you know, the memoir is coming out in October. I can imagine it for us. It's about Palestinian diaspora, the experience of being second generation. بس ده خلص. يعني what's coming after that publication? I wish I started work on a novel, but this year has been such a whirlwind that I haven't had time, and it needs a lot of focus. Hopefully by September I can start, and it's, if you want to know what it's about, I can just give you very little. It's about it's a love story, but it's a love story that is imagined. It's not real, and you go on a journey where at the very end you discover that the woman imagined it all. He never existed. That's the story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, can't wait. Thank you, Mai.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Brigitte.
You were talking about translation, I mean, that you write in English.
Yeah.
And I know that you translated Sayyid Darwish in English. So it means that your Arabic is good enough, or it is also in you that you are translating somebody like Say Darwish, and I read what you wrote. That is awesome. I mean, it's like you gave him another life in English. So how do you describe this phenomena?
Said Darwish was traumatic to translate. Because what happened is, I love Said Darwish. I grew up listening to him. I love his music so much. So when they came and told me, would you like to translate Darwish? I said yes, very naively, not factoring in that it's over 100 years old, it's Alexandrian, it's cosmopolitan, it has Italian, French, English, so many other influences. And it's a popular idiom that doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so what I did is actually, I called my parents the whole 10 times a day, asking about words that they know because of, they're older than me, so they would be familiar with these words. طبعا في dictionaries and other people and all that, but really I relied on people from a different generation. And it was extremely difficult to write, but the idea is you want to hold the stick from the middle. I knew that I was translating for the AUC's 100-year, the centennial celebration for AUC, and that the guests were all dignitaries, VIPs, foreigners. So the language had to be at a certain level of elevation, so I couldn't use slang. I had to use a more modern standard, popular idiom that's not slang, and it was very difficult. It was, and I finished it in 10 days. They were 24 songs. I didn't sleep for 10 days with Darwish. Would I do it again with Darwish? I don't think so. I don't think so. It was, too much. Yeah.
We have a question.
Hi, thank you, Mai. Thank you, Diwan. Thank you very much. I just wanted to this is going to be my experience in reading poetry in English. I usually do in Arabic, but this is going to be one of the few English poems that I'm going to be reading. And I'm interested in the other one you said, Night Sky with?
Exit Wounds.
Exit Wounds. I'll write that. And
Ocean Vuong.
okay, I'll write that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's incredible.
Okay.
Thinking to myself, if people who look like me or look like us, will we allow ourselves to openly write about sexuality, sensuality, that part of our lives? And then I heard this. So the question that comes to me now is, did you find yourself at any point self-censoring a personal piece or something you would have wanted to write more openly if...
No, not with this. Interviewing another author who's a man for his new novel, and I had a comment to him that it was too much, too much, and I told him it feels like it's just because you're a man that there's so much of that in your book, and he got offended. And he accused me of being uptight about these scenes, And then when I thought about it, I'm like, no, I'm not uptight. It's because you have license to talk like this as a Middle Easterner, and I don't, Yes, obviously, as Arab women, we self-censor. Yeah. Not all of us. Ehdaf Swaif in The Eye of the Sun didn't self-censor. It was very bold. But it's something that you have to decide if you can do or not. Yeah.
Can I add something
Yeah.
to that? I feel that sometimes, though, when there is this cliche about Arab women and sexuality, and wafting around it is the unveiling and the veiling and all of this, and I feel like sometimes you're trapped because either you talk about it and then you've walked into the cliche, you avoid it, you're self-censoring and you're your own oppressor, and then if you go into it too deeply, then the rest of the book no longer exists, and this becomes the focal point that everybody talks about. So I feel like we are quite trapped and damned And I'm personally, I try to look beyond this. I mean, and I don't think sexuality is personal. I think it's so political on so many levels that there is no joy or no privacy about it. I think that everything in it is completely political. And it's really, and it's just, the whole thing has now become a buzzkill for me in literature.
Nawal Saadawi comes to mind when we speak, because her books did so well abroad, because she was so bold about these topics, But to me, it was too sensational. And it was just a marketing scheme, to get to an international audience, It didn't work, for me at least. This kind of, to use it to market yourself to the West in a certain way is still not the way to go with it. Yeah.
Can I أتخانق معاكي كتير شوي؟
تحبيها؟
Okay. So last year, Bloomsbury relaunched all of Nawal Saadawi's works.
Who did?
Bloomsbury.
Okay.
And they commissioned me to write a foreword for Walking Through Fire.
Yeah.
ففي الأول I said no, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, let's do this. And I went back and I read it. And I'm not a very diplomatic human being. Yeah, I don't know how to say things eloquently. I said, well, I have to find a way, because I do give her historical credit. I give her credit on many levels. Yeah. I think as a person, I'm not a fan, but as a figure, and I think, I don't think I want to meet any of my heroes, because I think they will, my imagination is just so much better left كده to imagine them. If I met them, I think I'd be devastated. I think we need to separate between those things. But I went back and I read her. And I was very surprised by the fact that before intersectional feminism became something that everybody now talks about, she was intersectionalist. She was talking about class. She was talking about imperialism and colonialism, to the white sisters. She was, and I have to give her credit for that. I mean, the grandstanding was annoying, but I tried very hard to separate and find what is worth championing and what is worth admiring.
Yeah. I'm not cancelling her completely. I all respect to her. But one thing, when you call your book
لا دوسي أيوة.
When you call your book Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, that's cheap. That's like so sensational, It's too in your face. There's no subtlety, Where's the art?
Almodovar, cinque mujeres a la puerta de un ataque nervoso. He did it.
Yeah,
nobody called him cheap, and nobody called him misogynistic, or did someone, and I missed it.
Because Almodovar is very poetic, man. He's poetic, but anyway, I don't want to get into Nawal Saadawi.
Anyway, Well, so going back to Cairo, the Undelivered Letters, Mai is here. Please get your copy of this book. Please read it, and please get back to Mai. And oh, sorry, there is another question. I'm so sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay.
Sorry.
You can finish it.
No, please. It's okay.
Hi. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
My question is actually for Nadia.
لا أنا آسفة إني جبت سيرة نوال السعداوي.
No,
لا هي اللي جابت سيرة نوال السعداوي.
It has nothing to do with Noel. It's actually a more technical question. It's about the publishing process. So Mai said earlier that publishing poetry is quite difficult. Because it wouldn't sell, like you said, right? So what made you decide to publish a collection of poetry in English in Egypt?
I'm so happy you asked that. I'd like to introduce you to the two fabulous people behind this, Layal al-Rostom and Ahmed al-Karmalawi. And I would like, Layal and Ahmed, please stand up.
Thank you for giving me a chance because I wanted to say something to Mai and congratulate her in a special way, and I wasn't sure what the best way was, so the mic came to me through you. Well, actually, I've known Mai since she translated Darwish's work, and this was the first time we connected. I interviewed Mai and was very impressed at the translation, at the depth and the language and the humbleness that Mai has, which is beautiful to see in artists and in writers. So for me, Mai is a role model in her own way. She's a very true voice. She's true to herself. She's true to the reader. And I think this is what makes Mai special in whatever she does. So when we talked, I don't remember how it happened. It was a while ago, so
2019.
it's actually, yes, it was a few years before COVID. And we kept in touch, and whenever I see Mai's name, it stands out to me. And this is how you see there is a person that is making a difference in her own subtle way, as you see today. So when she had a book to publish, it was just another opportunity to have Mai on board with us. And when we read it, we were wowed, of course, because it's different and because it's true and because it has a message. And this is what we're looking in the work that we publish, not a specific genre, but a very talented and true, inspiring voice. And our role as a publisher and as a space of Diwan is to introduce these voices and have them on board and give them the space to reach people and inspire them. So this is why we published something that for some people would think poetry doesn't sell enough, or I think it's important to keep poetry in every publisher's catalog, and we make it a point every year to have at least 2 poetry books in our publishing catalog. So I thank Mai for that, and maybe it's an opportunity to say that Mai has translated Al-Lissu Al-Kilab, the comic book we published, the comic book. So you will see soon the English translation by Mai Serhan. So she's with Diwan not just as a poet and as a mentor in the creative writing workshop, but also as a translator. And whatever Mai does, we're on board with her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Continue the conversation in whatever shape or form you would like. And she's here and ready to sign any books. And thank you very much and have a lovely weekend. Thank you.